Hello and welcome to another podcast and a video from Fantasy Football Scout. Here is where it all starts again. It's the first captaincy episode of the 2019-2020 season as we look at the best armband candidates for Game Week 1. Today I'm joined by David. David, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. It's good to be back doing these videos, and also very good actually that I think this one's quite easy, but I'll let you explain a little bit more in more detail.
Right, okay, well, we're not going to be rude about anyone who's not going to captain this person. We're just going to say that they've got other options, but let's start with the obvious candidate. Let's call him the obvious candidate. It's Mo Salah. Mohamed Salah from Liverpool. He's been the default captain for many over the last 2 years, and he has a home game with a promoted side, Norwich. Is he the best option? David, what do you think? Is he the best, the obvious option for this week for the captaincy?
Yeah, 100% Salah is the obvious captain choice. So I mean, let's start with the fixture. It's Norwich at home. Norwich newly promoted side who aren't particularly strong at the back. They conceded a fair number of goals, even in winning the championship last season. I think they kept something like 13 or 14 clean sheets, which across a 46-game season in which they won the league is actually a lot lower than you'd expect. 6 or 7 teams that all finished below them in the league conceded fewer goals. And also coming into this game, they've had a few issues at the back with a few injuries. So Christoph Zimmermann, who was one of their best defenders from last season, looks like he's going to miss the game and be out for several weeks. Tim Close has had an injury in the pre-season. Ben Godfrey and Grant Hanley have played the most games out of all the Norwich centre-backs. And they haven't looked too decisive at the back either. They've conceded a fair number of goals in pre-season. So Norwich do look like the kind of team that, no disrespect to them, I think that Liverpool are going to beat them easily. And if Liverpool are going to win easily at home, then you've got to look at Mohamed Salah as the most likely person to be involved in that. You look at what he achieved in home games last season. Nobody had more shots on target in home games than Salah last season. Nobody had as many shots in home games who's still in the league, because actually Mitrovic had the most shots in home games last season with 78, but Salah was second with 75. And actually, those of us who've seen him in action recently, because obviously you could turn around and say these stats from last season might not necessarily carry through into the new campaign. Well, those of you who saw the last 20-25 minutes of the Community Shield on Sunday will know that Salah already looks up for the new season, could have had a couple of goals. Maybe a bit selfish, but actually if you're going to captain a player in FPL, it's quite nice when they're a selfish player, take the shot rather than square the ball. So for me, you just can't look past Salah for this game. He looks nailed on as an obvious captain choice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm exactly the same. I'm looking to keep it simple. I try and do that in Game Week 1 anyway, because we have a lot of knowledge, or we think we've got a lot of knowledge, and then suddenly it all goes wrong and we've got the wrong players. One thing we do know is that over the last 2 seasons, Salah has been an exceptional captaincy candidate. We know that also recent games as well, for club and country, he's looked quite good, getting better, and he has the potential to do well. No risks, no frills, lots of thrills, we hope. Just captain the obvious point scorer for one of the best teams against one of the worst I've written out here. So no offence, Norwich, but you just come up for the top flight. So as far as we know at the moment, you're not a Wolves, you're one of the worst sides. But let's see. Who knows? Maybe I'll be proved wrong. So last season against non-top 6 opposition, Salah scored 20 goals and had 7 assists. That's good, very good indeed. The season before against non-top 6 opposition, Salah scored 22 goals and had 6 assists. And Norwich last season in the Championship conceded 57 goals in 46 matches. That's 1.23 a game on average. They're expected to concede more against the likes of Liverpool rather than Bury or whatever Dross team is down there in the Championship. So Liverpool are better than them, and so they're going to concede more. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Anything else you wanted to add about Salah and Liverpool in general?
No, I just think it's, like you said, we don't want to be disrespectful to people who aren't going to captain Salah, but I just think it's obvious. And I think on sort of Game Week 1, when you consider that you want to make a strong start, I think it's hard really to captain differential options or people outside the obvious just for Game Week 1, because I mean that's my particular strategy. I know that my actual squad might have some differentials in it, but captaining them when there's someone as obvious as Salah I feel it's quite difficult, because you have to just look at it along the lines of, if you're going to captain someone else, what you're banking on is Salah not exploding, but the chance of him exploding are so high that it just feels an unnecessary risk to kind of go outside of Salah for this opening game. Make your differential sort of choices later in the campaign, maybe 4 or 5 game weeks in, when you've had a bit more data. For example, that game last season when we had Kane going up against that Cardiff match. That was 7 or 8 games in, so people like myself had data to say, well, I'm going to go Hazard instead of the obvious. But at this stage, you don't have that. So just keep it simple game week 1 and don't take the risk.
Yeah, exactly. So although we have said there are people who won't be captaining Salah, so we have to cater for them as well. We cater for all tastes. And I think this guy could be the one. Fairly obvious again. I think another obvious captaincy candidate. Not as obvious as Salah this week. But Raheem Sterling. He's another of this season's other big hitting 12 million plus captaincy candidates. Away to West Ham. That's still a good tie for him. But what do you think of his prospects?
Well, I do think that Sterling can do well against West Ham. I mean, he's probably going to be in my team. West Ham defensively not great. Especially over the last sort of 12 months, they've had some real issues, and also some potential issues going into game week 1 as well, because it looks like Noble could miss the game. He's a big part of their defence. It looks like maybe even Fabianski might miss the game, and obviously, he's the type of goalkeeper who typically could maybe keep a score down. But Roberto, from all accounts, who's the number 2 goalkeeper right now, hasn't been too solid in the most recent pre-season friendlies. I do think Man City can win this game and win it comfortably. West Ham in home matches last season, they conceded 86 shots on target, which was the joint 4th worst. The 3 teams that were worse than them, Burnley, Cardiff and Fulham. Obviously Cardiff and Fulham aren't with us anymore. So, they're certainly capable of, giving up lots of chances in home matches. But I do just kind of want to bring it back to Salah in a sort of a comparison of looking last season at Salah in home games versus Sterling in away games. And there isn't a huge there's a big difference between these 2 players in terms of what they did. So Salah in home matches, 3.9 shots per game versus Sterling's 1.9 shots away from home per game last season. Salah 2.5 shots in the box, Sterling 1.4. Then you look at shots on target, Salah 1.6 in home matches, 0.9 shots on target per away match for Sterling. Big chances 0.7 per game for Salah at home. Big chances 0.4 for Sterling away. So if this was a home match, I think it would be a lot closer. But because Sterling's away from home and Salah has just been so reliable in those home matches, that's for me why I have to pull it back to Salah. Some people might point out that maybe Sterling has the chance to play centre forward against West Ham, but that might not even be true anymore, because he only played as centre forward for 20 minutes, half an hour in the Community Shield, because Sané had to come off injured. So they put Jesus on at centre forward and push Sterling out wide. And Sterling might even be better as a winger as he is a centre forward, but I wouldn't necessarily rely on this idea that he's going to play centre forward as a sort of as a reason to maybe go him ahead of Salah. I mean, I still think he's a good candidate. I don't want to sort of knock him or knock anyone who's going to go with him, because he's a good player. He's probably going to be in my team as well. But again, I just feel because it's a home match for Salah and he was so reliable in home matches versus Sterling not quite so reliable in the away matches, it just makes sense to stick with the safer bet for game week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I agree again, but I will say that I'm going to regret not captaining Sterling. And the reason why, last season I said that one of my biggest regrets was not backing Sterling enough, either to own or with the armband. And I think this season I'm going to regret ignoring him again. So I'm going to go for Salah this week. But Sterling, I just bet he's going to score more. He's just scored a brace against the Hammers in pre-season. He scored against his old club Liverpool at the weekends. He scored against West Ham in the reverse fixture last season. No, sorry, in exactly the same fixture last season. One of the biggest hauls of the season, I seem to recall as well. And I really regretted not even owning him then as well. He could very well be playing up top. As you say, he may be on the wing. It does, to be honest, I don't care where he plays, as long as it's somewhere near the goal and he's shooting a lot. So away from home last season, yes, his stats aren't as good as Salah at home, especially Salah at home against a weak weaker side. But he had 34 shots and 32 chances. That's 14th for shots and 8th for chances. On their own, they're kind of okay. But the fact is that because they're both so top 15 for one, top 10 for the other, that shows that he's got goals and assists and lots of that kind of potential in his locker as well. So that obviously means points. He gets an extra point for a midfielder over a striker for a goal. And what do points mean? Well, not in this case prizes, unless you're very lucky and win the whole thing. But it just means lots of kudos in your mini leagues as well. So I'm going to regret again not captaining Sterling, and I'm just going to take all his points on the chin. I'm going to own him this time at least. But yeah, let's move on. There's no Hazard this year for Chelsea, but could Harry Kane be the new Eden Hazard in terms of differential captaincy? So you mentioned before about the obvious pick and then why you went for Hazard as well. There's no Hazard this season. So could Kane be that one? And could Kane be that interesting differential captaincy pick for the types of matches that we're looking at in Game Week 1, which is Kane against Villa, another promoted side? What do you think about Kane against Villa for the armband this week?
Well, I certainly really like Kane. And he's still in my team at the moment. A lot of people have said my current draft is a bit unbalanced, but I do like that I have Kane, Salah and Sterling at the moment because, yeah, I do really fancy Kane this year. So the Villa fixture, I think it's a good fixture. Dare I say it, not quite as wide open, I think, as Norwich. Villa weren't particularly strong at the back last season. They didn't keep as many clean sheets as you'd like. They're not a Cardiff or a Sheffield United, but with their defensive setup, they look a little bit more secure, or have done in pre-season. Mings and probably Engels are probably going to be their first choice. And they tend to have, but they've signed a few players who look like they can provide protection to that back four in Marvelous Nakamba, Douglas Luiz. Whether or not those two will start that game, I don't know. But they've got themselves a fantastic goalkeeper as well, Villa, in Tom Heaton, who historically has been the bane of a lot of premium forwards and done very well himself. So, I mean, it's still a good fixture, but there's still a few things just to kind of put me off. But I do really like Kane. Last season, if you're looking at centre forwards, he had the most shots on target of those centre forwards just in the league. Mitrovic, again, still kind of like spanner in the works when we do these comparisons. He was the forward with the most shots on target last season, 47. Kane was just behind him on 46 and played considerably fewer minutes than a lot of these other forwards. So we know he's going to shoot a lot. They're going to be on target quite a lot. We know he's got quality. We've seen him do that in pre-season. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I just can't look past Salah. But I do think Kane can do well. So, yeah, I do think Kane can do well.
Yeah, now, Kane, I think, is going to do well against Villa. I also think he's going to annoy me because I'm probably not going to own him. Because as you said, it does create quite an unbalanced side to have so many captaincy options in when you're only captaining one as well. But yeah, I'm going to regret not owning him, I think. So against last season's 3 promoted sides, Kane scored 4 goals in 5 starts and 1 assist. That's an incredible achievement, but only 1 goal last August as well. So it's been long touted that he's not very good in August, but it's a bit different this season. He has a longer rest as well. I just think he could do well. And I think that him or Moura as well. So those who perhaps want a more balanced side don't want Kane. I think Lucas Moura is a good option for this week. I don't think he's a good option medium term because essentially Son is going to be back from suspension in a couple of game weeks. And then we're back into will he or won't he play to Moura. But I think in the next 2 matches, and this one is specifically against Villa, I think he is a very good option there. So Kane or Moura, I think are very good. Moura, we know, has hat-tricks in him, as does Harry Kane. But we mentioned Moura there as a kind of a best of the rest, I suppose. If you haven't got Kane, but there are other options to sort of best of the rest as well. So those that don't want to go for the obvious captain want to be a little different as well. I actually think Leicester assets could be good against Wolves. Now Wolves have struggled to keep clean sheets. They do well against teams, but they struggle to keep clean sheets. And Leicester under Rodgers, I think, have been looking at fantastic as well. And in particular, I like Vardy. Now I noticed he had 8 home goals in 16 starts in last season, and that was under the previous management as well. 3 assists too. He's on penalties. I just think he could be a good alternative with a goal in every other game at home, and that's with a good manager and a not quite a good manager they got rid of. But yeah, what do you think of Leicester assets for the captaincy?
Yeah, I think Leicester this season. You've talked about who's going to be the hazard, who's going to be that kind of that alternative player to potentially help people, make good ground at the start of the season. I think Leicester assets, especially Vardy, could be among them. Vardy is another very expensive player that's currently in one of my drafts because I really like Vardy. And actually, to be honest, he was the first name on my team sheet when I picked my first team outside of Salah because what Vardy was doing with Leicester once Rodgers took over was really, really impressive. So between game weeks 29 and 38 last season, nobody was afforded more big chances than Jamie Vardy with 12. He was level with Mane. But obviously, Mane, we're not sure he's going to start this week, so we kind of haven't really mentioned him a great deal, but that's just because he's been away a lot. He also had 14 shots on target. Did Vardy, so that was second behind Salah. He had 25 shots in the box, which was second behind Salah. He actually was surprisingly creative as well for someone who is Vardy. 13 chances created, just a few fewer than Mane on 17. So a great all-round option, I think, who was in fantastic form at the end of last season. So yeah, absolutely. I think he's the kind of player who can do really well at the start of the season. A few people have sort of wondered if he might share the goals with Perez. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think that Perez coming into this team is just going to make them a better side. So then, or at least in terms of scoring goals. So then I can't see why that wouldn't benefit Vardy, because if Perez is going to score some goals, then you'd imagine that some of them might come from a square pass from Vardy. Some of them might come from Vardy shooting and the goalie saving and then Perez putting it in, or vice versa. So, I don't think that changes the dynamic at all. Wolves, for this particular game, I think I don't want to say they will struggle, but if they were to struggle, I wouldn't be surprised, because their Europa League campaign is really now kind of coming into the thinking for game week 1, because I think it's now their third round match on the Thursday night, which is what we're Monday today, so it's 3 days away, is away from home at a team called Punic, I think, who are in Armenia. Which is a 6,000-mile round trip to make on the Thursday night before playing your first Premier League game of the season at, I think, 2:00 on the Sunday. It's a really quick turnaround, and with a relatively small squad, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of players who've played Thursday night, then had to travel on the days in between, prepare for Leicester, and then play against Leicester. They're not. I don't think it would be disrespectful to Wolves to say that Leicester are going to be better prepared for that game. So. I can see Leicester scoring goals in that game, and for all of the reasons I mentioned there with the stats from the end of last season, what Rodgers was like, what Vardy was like under Rodgers, I think he's got a strong chance of getting some attacking returns.
Yeah, I mean that's why Vardy has been in my original Game Week 1 draft, and he's still there as well. He comes in and out every now and again, but one of the reasons is it's no frills, lots of thrills, we hope. And you know what you're getting, really. You're getting a very reliable goal scorer, and he can score against anyone as well. And as you point out, now I really like those stats that you pulled out, particularly about the air miles of Wolves as well, because that's one of the reasons I quite like Leicester early on. I actually think they're a good side early on, and I think this could be a good fixture for them. Wolves don't keep clean sheets anyway. They're already involved in another campaign, which Leicester aren't. They're already, we hope, going to be knackered as well, and Leicester are just going to be really up for this. I hope. That's the theory anyway, but we know that the Game Week 1 theories can go awry by Game Week 2. But that's the theory anyway. So yeah, let's consider some other options. We've already established that Salah's the obvious one. We're just going to quickly go through some other ones as well. Any other Man City or Liverpool assets potentially caught your eye for the captaincy, just quickly?
Well, a lot of people have talked about Liverpool defenders for Game Week 1. I would err on the side of caution, I think, because Norwich, whilst they are pretty poor at the back, are actually quite exciting going forward. So I think that we could be looking at like a 75th minute Timu Pukki consolation goal, which would be frustrating if you've captained one of your Liverpool defenders. We've also seen Alexander-Arnold brought off in the 60-ish minute in the Community Shield. So our concerns about his game time, I think, are well founded off that particular game. So in terms of differentials at Liverpool, I don't really want to tout any of them, because Mane's probably not going to be there. If he is going to be there, he's probably going to be as a substitute. Firmino possibly, but it's just none of them compared to Salah. So I don't really think any alternatives with Liverpool. Man City maybe, because I quite like Kevin De Bruyne. If you're worried about Sterling sort of away from home. De Bruyne just chance created every 27 minutes last season. So if he can continue that against West Ham, and you think there's going to be an array of goal scorers, then De Bruyne is going to be the man on the set pieces and playing the ball through. So I think worth considering him. I've considered him instead of Sterling in my team. So if that's the case, then I should be saying if I think De Bruyne is worth having instead of Sterling, I think he's captainable as well. In terms of sort of some cheaper ones, looking at the rest of the fixtures, some people have sort of been talking about Wilson. I can't. I'm a man who's been stung by him too often to say, Captain Wilson. The fixture's nice at Sheffield United, but Sheffield United, as much as Norwich and Villa, not particularly sound at the back. Sheffield United very much are. 21 clean sheets last season in the Championship. I know it's going to be a step up, but they could be this season's Cardiff, a team that's capable of keeping clean sheets in this game. They've got Dean Henderson, who's a fantastic goalkeeper as well. So, I don't think I'd captain a Bournemouth player. So, sorry to answer your question with a long list of people I wouldn't captain.
Good. That's what I wanted.
We're all kind of these are all the kind of differentials people are talking about, and there's risks associated with all of them, so it's a no from me.
Basically, we can just call them lots of blokes who aren't called Salah. That's basically who they are, really, because we're going to captain Salah this week. But we've got to give these other options, because lots of people out there play the game differently, and they like the thrills, and they like their frills as well with the game. So here's a couple of names to add to that, really. And I think that Burnley's Chris Wood, he's going to be top of my differential captaincy list. 9 goals in pre-season. Did I read that right? So I've been looking. I put up a picture of our complete guide to FPL pre-season. That's an extensive guide. I do urge anyone to have a look at that. They've got in-depth knowledge about who scored, who assisted, everything like that. The minutes played, all of that information is there. And Chris Wood has been the star of the pre-season, but obviously against lower opposition there. 9 goals, 1 assist. Rodriguez there at 6 goals. The reason I mention them is they're playing Southampton at home, and I think Southampton as well as conceding to the likes of Feyenoord, and they've also conceded Preston North End and Altach. I don't even know. I've never even heard of Altach, but they've conceded to them. And so I think they're there for the taking. But indeed, I also think that some Southampton strikers, they've got their new striker as well. And also they have the established striker, the injury-prone Ings. If Ings is fit, which he seems to be at the moment, he's a good bet for goals as well. Burnley did concede last season, but different season. Let's go. But I just mentioned them as well. No one seriously is going to captain Danny Ings above Mo Salah. That would be crazy talk. But nevertheless, we have to mention these names, and we're down to the bottom of the barrel there, and it's probably a fitting place to end it. The barrel has been scraped, and Danny Ings' face is there. So let's finish up now. So thanks for your time, David. Just to let you know, there is tons of other coverage at fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. You and Neil have been exhaustively covering everything that's been going on. So all the information that we need to prepare for Game Week 1 is there. And I've just flagged up there the complete guide to FPL pre-season. That's a particularly useful section there. Go and have a look at that. We also have the first Scoutcast of the season this week with a special guest as well, and that's taking place on Tuesday. We've got team news videos planned later this week. There may well be more content coming out as well, so book some days off work and let us help you prepare for the new season. But for now, David, thanks for your time and good luck with your captaincy choice, who I think I know who it is, obviously.
Well, good luck to you as well, because it sounds like we're going for the same guy, so hopefully we're both happy come 10 o'clock on Friday night.
Good luck and goodbye.
Cheers, goodbye.